Hey there, everyone. I wanted to put together just a few thoughts about media relations. This is something that we are studying this week, and your readings in the text talk about working with journalists and bloggers. But I wanted to share just some of the top 10 things that I've learned in dealing with the news media. I'll be honest with you, some of these things are lessons that I learned the hard way. I made mistakes. Sometimes those are your best lessons. But also, these are lessons that I just learned in my own observations. No matter what area of public relations that you end up going into, media relations will be part of your job. It may be a huge part of your job, it may be a small part of your job. But nurturing and fostering and maintaining a positive but fair relationship with the news media is critical no matter what organization or brand that you work with. So I'm just going to run through these. Again, these are things that we've talked about in the readings. I'll be a little more candid in my comments, but as always, if you have questions, let me know. I've narrowed this down to somewhat of a top 10. Again, these are just some experiences that I've had in my own dealings and working with the media for about 20 years now. First of all, I want you to look at this. The news media and public relations, this is a mutual relationship. They need you, you need them. You work together. You are providing them with news, you are providing them with facts, you're responsive. They are telling your story, they're sharing your news. They rely on you, you rely on them. So it's a relationship that goes back and forth. It's a cordial relationship, but it's one where both sides of the table need each other. It's really important that you provide them with accurate information. Um, the last thing you want to have happen is to have wrong information on your news release. They get it, they publish it or they air it, and then their phones start blowing up with people saying, wait a minute, that's the wrong date, or what you said was wrong. If it falls back on you, you were the source of that wrong information, that's not good. And so it's really important that the facts, when they leave your desk, they are perfect. The dates, the times of your events, the titles, everything is accurate. In addition, they're not going to want to clean up your grammar mistakes. If you have comma splices, if you have things that are spelled wrong, they do not have the time nor the desire to clean those things up. So it's important that it be perfect when it leaves your desk, and also it must be an AP style, especially when you're working with newspapers. They're going to be using AP style. You want your news release to be in the exact form that they can use so they can take it and run with it and not spend time that they don't have cleaning it up. It's also really important that you provide them with timely information, but also with proper advance. If you are promoting an event or you're writing a news release about a conference you're having, you want to give them at least 2 weeks notice. You don't want to give them a news release for an event happening tomorrow and wanting them to publish it right away. That doesn't always happen. So it's really important that you plan ahead and not dump them with something at the last minute. Again, 2 weeks is a good time frame that I try to stay within when I can. This is a tough one, but part of working in media relations is you've got to be accessible. They need to be able to get you at the drop of a hat. They work in a very time-sensitive business. If they call you, they want to get you right away. If for some reason they have to leave a message, get back with them, even if it means sending a text, hey, I'll get right back with you. Your job may end at 5 o'clock, but if something happens after hours, you can't use that excuse. If there's an emergency that breaks, they need to be able to reach you 24/7. It's not totally fair, and you may not, probably will not be compensated for the extra time, but to have a good relationship with the media, they need to know if they can get you and they can get you quickly. It's also just as important that you respond to them in a very timely fashion. If they've called and they're looking for an expert or they're looking for you to comment on something, keep them in touch. Let them know, send a text, say, hey, I'm trying, still work on that. If some time passes, stay in touch with them so they're not sitting there waiting all day for you to get back with them, especially if you get back to them and say, hey, I can't provide that for you today. They've got to scramble and do something different for their story. You want to keep them up to date. Make sure until their requests have been met or you can't deny that you can't honor them, that you are staying up with them pretty quickly. It's really something important. They don't want to be left in the dark when they're trying to get something from you. I think it's really important too that you know who is media, who's working in the media, who are the reporters, what are the news stories they're looking for, is there a special topic they like to cover. If there's someone covering education, make sure you're getting the right stories to them. If they cover entertainment, make sure you're getting the right stories to them. If they have an interest in doing stories about the stock market and you have a expert or something that might fit with them, make sure you're tailoring things to them. You know what they're looking for and you know who they are. This one goes without saying, don't lie to them ever. There are ways that these things come back to haunt you. If you lied to a reporter, you have burned the bridge of trust, and it's possible that that bridge will never get rebuilt. If there's a reason why you can't give accurate information, tell them, I can't speak to that at this time. Give another reason why, but don't ever lie to them. These things go on record, and most people who lie to reporters eventually get caught, and it's really just makes it very difficult to work with the media and that public relations person in the future. So again, don't ever lie to a reporter. If you have to say no comment, and I'll be honest with you, there will be times that I cannot tell a reporter an answer to a question. There is maybe a privacy issue, or there may be that this is a matter of investigation. If you can't tell them the answer, tell them why. Give them the reason. If this is protected information, or instead of saying no comment, you can just say, I will not be able to speak to that at this time, or I will address that later, or we can't provide any additional information. Tell them why, but go beyond the words no comment. I mentioned this earlier about being responsive, but it's really especially important in a crisis that if a crisis breaks, respond. They're going to be under the gun to hear from you, to report a story. Even if you can tell them, yes, I'm checking into this, we'll get back to you, stay in touch with them. But it's especially important in a crisis that you don't want your organization to go under the radar. You don't want the media saying that we've heard this, no one's responding, no one's returning our calls. That is a kiss of death in working in PR. And even if you don't have any additional information, make sure that you're responding to them always in a timely fashion. And this is something that I have seen people really just be eaten alive for, and it's telling a reporter, this isn't a story. I'll be honest, there are times that a reporter is chasing something that is insignificant. It doesn't really matter. There's no relevance. This is not a big deal, but they're going crazy to tell the story. And you know it's not a story. I never tell them this isn't a story. I generally give them what they're looking for, and they kind of deduce that themselves. But don't ever tell a reporter this is not a story, it's insulting. And I promise you, if you tell them that and they get mad, they're going to make it an even bigger story. And finally, and while the media is not the enemy, they're also not your BFF. And it's just tough. I mean, you work with these individuals sometimes on a daily basis. You get to know each other. And it's natural that over time that there becomes a friendship. It makes it easy to want to go have dinner with them or to go hang out with each other, especially if you're, have things in common in terms of age or interest. And while I encourage you to keep a positive relationship with them, don't blur that line, because there will be times in the news media that the relationship becomes challenged. They're mad at you, you're mad at them, things become very tense, and it really gets awkward if this is someone that you have a social relationship with outside of work and suddenly there is a tense issue at work. Again, I'm not saying you avoid having a relationship with them, but keep it fair, keep it a business relationship, and don't let the lines cross from that. Again, these are just a few things that I wanted to put together that a lot of them are complemented in this week's reading, but just some thoughts about working with the media. I look forward to reading your news releases on Friday. News releases are a big part of media relations, and if you have any questions about the assignment, let me know. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening.